Okay, welcome, everybody. This is the virtual chapter hosting the IACT IMDHA Presenters series in anticipation of the great HypnoExpo at Daytona Beach. Look behind me, ladies and gentlemen. This lovely place is the deck at the hotel that we spend our time at in Daytona. Pardon me. And we need to get out in the sunshine so that we can stop this coughing. But that beautiful beach right behind us is the one that we certainly enjoy at the conference. So if you haven't registered already, be sure and get out there to the site, IACT or IMDHA website, and sign up and sign on and sign in, because we want to see you there. We've got a couple of great presenters to talk with tonight. We're going to be talking with Karen Hand first in just a little while, and then shortly after that, we will speak with Kweethai Neill, who has some great stuff to tell us about their programs at the conference. And I want to let you know before we get started that if you are a member of either IACT or IMDHA, you can claim CEUs for your time with us tonight by going out to the website of the organization that you are a member of. And when you log in with your member ID, there's a screen that pops up, or your profile information. And on that page, there's a place where you can claim your CEUs. So let them know that you visited the presenter series and we spent some time together, and you want to get credit for it. And they will oblige you with that. We also have received an endorsement from the International Hypnosis Federation, which is Shelley Stockwell's organization. You know, she's a friend of ours, and she's told her folks that that they ought to come out here and listen to us on the virtual chapter. And so if you're a member of that group and you come out here, you can also claim CEUs from them as well. So so here we are. The program is being recorded, as I mentioned earlier. So be aware when you're on the air of what it is that you say, and know that it will be on your permanent record. So be careful about that. And the recording will be posted tomorrow, hopefully by noontime, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, on the IACT IMDHA forum, the Mind Matters forum. If you are a member, you can get it there. You can also go to the IACT website or the IMDHA website. At the top of the page, there's a tab that says Conference. And if you click on the Conference tab, all kinds of little things drop down. One of them is teleconferences. And all of the teleconferences that we've had so far are available there. So just click the link and you can pop right out over there and listen to the ones that we've had already, or see the ones that we've had already, and anticipate the ones that are coming up, because the complete listing of what's going to be available will be there as well. And that's my bevy of announcements that I always make in one big breath at the beginning of the hour. And I think I've pretty much gotten through them. Now, usually about this time, I would invite my co-host to sort of step in and say hi, and and we would chit-chat a little bit about something. But the strange thing is, last week she was in the driver's seat while I was being interviewed, and this week we've switched back positions, and she's going to be the first person up on our agenda tonight. So without further ado, well, let me just tell you a little bit about Karen, because you've seen her here. If you have been to meetings in this group before, let me tell you what her official biography says, because the lady is quite impressive. When I was at the ophthalmologist today, I took with me this book, Magic Words and Language Patterns, which Karen has written.
Thank you very much, Michael.
It's a lovely book about hypnotic language, and I would encourage you all to get it. It's a quick and easy read, and that's one of the beautiful things about it. It's not too complicated, because I'll tell you, something I've learned being in neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis both, and studying NLP particularly from John Grinder, is that there's nobody quite as qualified as a linguist to make things really difficult to understand.
Really complicated.
So God bless you, Karen, for putting it down in words that make sense to people, and it's very, very helpful for practitioners. So what can I tell you about Karen? She has been such a great help to me, but she is an award-winning, board-certified hypnotist, educator, international best-selling author, and world-class communicator. Her 30-year career as a Chicago radio personality was the perfect foundation for using language to create thoughts, pictures, and emotions in others. She was on WLS, by the way, that radio station that I certainly remember from growing up in Chicagoland. Karen's transition to hypnosis expanded that skill and Since 2005, she has helped thousands of people take control of their lives. She has trained countless hypnotists and NLPers to help others change for good. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Karen Hand.
Thank you, Michael.
Hiya. So how are you doing tonight in the Windy City?
Well, I'm doing just fine, and our weather is just fine. So I have no complaints. In beautiful downtown Chicago, you can see it behind me.
Yeah, that's what it looks like right today, isn't it?
That's exactly right, yes.
You must be up in Oprah's apartment or something.
Yeah, I hang with Oprah when I go downtown. That's right.
That's what it is. Well, we'll either hang with Oprah or we'll hang separately. I think somebody said something like that once.
One or the other.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here. And I think just to kick this off, you're going to be doing a program called Stop, Look, and Listen. It is one day. It's on Friday of the conference weekend. I'm correct so far, right?
That is right. That is
all
correct.
Day Friday. And I guess it has something to do with listening.
It does. And looking and stopping. Do you know the key to good listening? There's one rule to good listening.
Shut up.
Stop talking.
Right?
That's right. You got to stop talking. And what we do is observe, right? So when the client comes in, you've already hypnotized them to an extent. They called you and made an appointment with you. And they're already in an altered state. So the first thing we need to do is stop, check our stuff at the door, and look and listen to the client, be with the client. Some people call it holding space for them. Mm-hmm. But stop our thinking, stop our conclusion drawing, and look and listen to the client so we get feedback, get clues for where we're going with that session with that client.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because one of the things that I've learned sometimes is in a group environment, particularly when there's interactive conversation, sometimes when we're not talking, what we're actually doing is, it's not just that we're not listening. What we're actually doing is we're thinking about what we're going to say next.
That's right. And we need to stop that. When we're with a client, we have to stop that. What we say next is a lot less important than what they say next or all the time. They're going to tell you what to say.
That is truly a radical idea, Karen Hand.
Yeah, well.
Seriously. And I'm very serious, because a whole lot of hypnotists have the idea that the magic is in what it is that they're going to say, and they've got to weave the right magic spell, and they're so preoccupied with trying to get that all down that every once in a while they've forgotten. There's a little story, if you don't mind me just stealing the air for a second, of Milton Erickson and Ernie Rossi. And Rossi used to be that way, and Rossi would get so lost in his own head. And with the one arm that he had that worked, Erickson was fond now and again to nudge Ernie and point across the room. He says, "Ernie, the client is over there."
Yes.
Kept focusing him. So nice. This is really a wonderful thing. So one of the things that I've heard you say from time to time is this phrase. You say hypnosis happens.
Yeah.
It's really a nice thing. I like to hear that. What do you actually mean by that? And how do you use it to maximize session success?
Well, I'm a believer that everything is hypnosis. Everything can be hypnosis, and that we are always in one trance or another. I believe that we're always in some sort of trance. Usually, when Michael and I are co-hosting this session, as an example, we are in the interviewer trance. Tonight, for the first part of the evening, I'm in the presenter's trance. And it's slightly different. Answering questions is different from asking questions. And the way I present it and the listening that's involved there, entirely different skill sets. But I think we're always in one trance or another. You've heard of the driving trance or the movie-going trance. We go to lunch with our friends. That's a different trance than we're in when we spend time with our children or when we go to school or when we go to work. But we interweave in those trances all the time. So when our client comes into our office, they are already in a trance, an altered state. And that's when I think it's important that we stop, leave our stuff at the door, open our mind, and look and listen to the client to find out what trance state they're in. What state are they in and where do they want to go? And I think sometimes it's really important to listen to them and find out if they have already been hypnotized. And maybe our first job is to de-hypnotize them for one thing or another, rather than to hypnotize them. It's entirely different from what you said, Michael, about being the wizard, always knowing the answers, or being the answer person, or having the perfect script.
Right.
If we listen to them and keep an open mind, they will tell us exactly what we have to do first. Maybe the first thing is to de-hypnotize them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, in fact, Don Callis has put a note here. He says, I heard that Dan Cleary, he heard Dan Cleary say once, they come into your office in trance, and your job is to find them a better trance.
Yes, that's exactly right. I wish I'd have said it that well myself, Don, because that's exactly right. They're already in a trance, and they've already decided there's something they want to change or they don't want anymore. They're going to bring that with them too. Mm-hmm. And so our job is to find out what trance they're in and help them find that better state, that state that they're looking for.
Nice. All right. Well, so what are some of the specific things that you can do then to stop and to look and to listen for when you're with the client?
Okay. So as an example, I read a great article, I think just this morning, about people who are in the I want to get healthy trance, often read something, hear something, see something on television, and it'll tell them, you got to get off gluten. Gluten's a bad thing. Gluten will make you're healthier if you don't have gluten. So if they go to the grocery store and they happen to be in that gluten-free trance, they may not be celiac, which that's when gluten is really an issue. They may not have that kind of health issue at all, but it has been suggested to them that they will be healthier when they go gluten-free. So they go to the grocery store, they're in the grocery shopping trance, and they're going down the aisle, and those little bubbles on various boxes on the grocery store shelves that say gluten-free, no gluten. Oh, that must be healthy. And they start filling up their cart with gluten-free stuff. What they don't recognize is that the gluten-free stuff has all sorts of other stuff in it that may not be healthy for them. And if they don't have a sensitivity to wheat or to gluten, this other stuff may be worse for them. So that's a different kind of trance. If they're talking about that, we might have to de-hypnotize those messages. I've got a smoking client who went from smoking 2 packs a day, 40 cigarettes a day, to smoking 10 a day, and he really wanted to taper off. He was afraid he couldn't do it. That was the trance he came into, that he wouldn't be able to stop smoking, and he wanted to taper off slowly. Well, I'm not going to tell him he has to go cold turkey if what he wants to do is taper off slowly, so we tapered off slowly. But dropping down from 40 to 10 is a rapid decline. When he was down to 10 cigarettes a day, his wife was so proud of him, and she happened to have a doctor's appointment. She went to the doctor and told him how proud she was that her husband was now only smoking 10 cigarettes a day, and the doctor said, well, that's like nothing at all. And she went home and told her husband how happy she was. That's like nothing at all. What a bizarre suggestion to give to somebody who's, right, Don, you're the smoking cessation wizard. What kind of hypnotizing did the doctor do, and his wife contributed to it, when they said, well, that's like nothing at all. So I had to de-hypnotize him from the that's like nothing at all trance. He was also quite proud that he had switched to a more expensive brand, to the American Indian cigarette. I don't know if you guys have seen the American Indian cigarette, but right there on the box, it's got a Native American looking silhouette, and it says organic, and it says
no gluten.
No gluten, toxin free, I believe it said. And so he was very proud that not only had he cut back, but he had gone to this healthier cigarette. And that is hypnosis. By any other name, that is a suggestion from the tobacco companies, and it's to keep people smoking. That's exactly what they're after, is to keep people smoking, because they've given them a healthier variety, the same way lights were better than regulars, right? Well, the way I de-hypnotized him or disabused him of that notion was to point out to him that, yes, the tobacco contained in that cigarette may have had less formaldehyde, it may have had fewer pesticides, etc. But the tobacco, he wasn't smoking it out of a tobacco leaf like the Native Americans, right? And he said, no, he was smoking, the cigarette. And I had to point out that the paper is still treated with flame retardant, Otherwise, it would go in a flash. And I asked him if he had filters on his cigarettes, and yes, he does. And I pointed out that that is still made with fiberglass, and little shards of the fiberglass still get sucked in and down into your lungs. And that changed, reframed, we call it for in NLP circles, it reframed his view, or reframed that trance that he was in. I had to de-hypnotize those messages that he had picked up along the way to becoming a non-smoker, because they were harmful messages. So that was the first thing to do, was de-hypnotize him from that before we proceeded to the next step. Couple of examples there.
Nice. So tell me a little bit first, just generally, we'll get back to some specifics about it, but tell us about your workshop, your one-day workshop, and what's included in it. What can people expect to experience there? What can they learn?
Going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be experiential. So there'll be some demonstrations, but we're also going to work with each other. And I do a lot of handouts because I want you to be able to take this stuff home and use it right away. So we'll be talking about, well, what I like to call the hypnotist tracking form, where we'll start keeping track of things that we learn from the people we're working with in the workshop. We will keep track of what we learned about individuals, what we know about them, so that when we do an exercise with them, we'll already have a running sheet or a running tally of things that we have learned by looking and listening. We'll get goals and benefits and that kind of thing, but what we're going to be listening for as we're talking about issues will be limiting beliefs, and of course the goals and benefits they're going after, the metaphors that they're using, and we'll do some games or do some examples of how we draw out the metaphors and how we can use the metaphors as we're working with them in the session. I want to find out if my client is globalizing an issue or in other words, taking their own power away. I hear a lot of people talk about, well, as an example, I had a weight loss client who said, you know, you can't pass the candy dish on the secretary's desk without taking a handful. Well, I pointed out, I can. Candy's not my thing. But I asked her to own that and say it in a different way. Say, I can't pass the candy dish on the secretary's desk. And when she said it in using the I word, it gave her a different feeling about that. Mm-hmm. So I pointed out to her that she was globalizing it. She was making it a uniform example. If you go to a beautiful wedding with a nice dessert table at the end, you know, you can't pass that dessert table without taking something. Well, if that's true, if that's in the U term, globalizing it, it's an issue that nobody can deal with. Well, you have no power against it because it's just a fact. It's a reality.
Sure. Isn't it Lay's? Sorry. Isn't it Lay's potato chips that used to have their motto says that you can't eat just one?
That's right. That's right. You can't eat just one. Boy, that's as I said at the beginning, everything is hypnosis. And boy, wasn't that a great hypnotic suggestion, because you remember it even today.
It's still true.
It's true for you. But isn't, you know, a lot of hypnotists say, well, a suggestion only lasts 42 or 78 hours. I think that Lay's thing that you just mentioned, Michael, proves that not to be true.
It's got 42 years or more.
It just keeps going and going and going. What's that? It just keeps going and going and going.
Oh, the Energizer Bunny.
There you go. There's another suggestion that just stuck, that just held on. So it's lasting forever.
That's great.
I want to hear that about, are you globalizing it or owning it? And we'll do some changing and reframing around that. Also, I want to know if they talk in first person, second person, or third person. I have a client I'm working with now who switches on a dime. He will associate himself in by saying, I do such and such, and you can't do this. So he'll switch from owning something to making it second person in the same sentence. He will change how he's talking about something. Such an interesting example with Michael Jordan. Y'all probably know who Michael Jordan is. I know I'm in the Windy City. We all know who it is, but I think everybody knows Michael Jordan or remembers him. When he was in the NBA, he was the #1 scorer in the NBA. And he was interviewed way back in the olden days. Some of you are old enough to remember Larry King. He was interviewed by Larry King, and Larry King said, you know, Michael, when you were in the NBA, you were the #1 scorer. How did you do that? And Michael Jordan said, I always knew I would make the basket. As I dribbled down the court, I knew I was going to make the basket. And then Larry King said, yes, but you were also the #2 misser when you were in the NBA. And he said, well, even Michael Jordan can miss a shot here and there. Now, the body language and everything is very indicative of how his strategy around playing basketball. He owned his success, and he not only leaned away from, but he put it in third person about any problem. Do you know who else did the same kind of interview with Larry King?
Who's that?
Donald Trump.
Ah.
And when Larry King interviewed Donald Trump, he said, this was long before he ran for president. This was just when he was a big building builder and a casino owner. And he said, Larry King said, you build really great buildings, don't you? And Donald Trump said, I build the best buildings, the most beautiful, tallest, most statuesque buildings. I build beautiful structures. And he said, yeah, but you filed bankruptcy on all of your casinos. And Trump said, well, Donald Trump's a businessman. Things happen in business.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Nobody taught either of those two gentlemen how to do that. Neither one of them were hypnotists, well, that we know of, but they were doing it on themselves. They were speaking in very pointed, very indicative language, and it tells us a lot about strategies. So when we listen carefully, when we stop thinking and start listening, opening our mind, our clients will tell us the strategies they're running about a problem or about an issue. And we can help them, as Don Pellis pointed out earlier, find a better state and a better strategy for accomplishing something.
Great. So how are you doing this in the seminar? Are you going to be doing, are you going to role play these things or do exercises? Or
there will be some role playing. There will be some exercises. We'll start out with that hypnotist tracking form, and the hypnotist tracking form will be some questions that we'll ask and talk about. So we'll get some ideas if somebody prefers a visual strategy or a kinesthetic strategy or an auditory strategy. And I think that's less important than some other things, but it's a good way to start out. As we're talking to another person, asking them about the first car they bought or something like that, asking them just desultory questions, we'll then start to hear strategies and start to hear metaphors that come up and start making note of those and discussing them, telling each other what we found out in listening. You can tell something when you are looking at somebody. When you look at someone and they come into your office in a very tailored suit and 7-inch heels, or a very tailored outfit, you'll know something about that person and the strategy they run for their presentation of themselves. If they come in sweats and pull their shoes off, that tells you something else. It neither is good nor bad. It's just information that you're gathering as you're looking at and watching your client. Of course, there are NLP, eye accessing cues and things like that you can use too, but I think there's a lot more to listening and looking to see how they are presenting themselves, how they're talking about themselves. Those are the things we'll talk about. We'll look for personal trance words. I'll teach you how to find each client's personal trance words that just go right in, and they're their own personal words, the words that they use. And when you do your session with them, the sermon part of the session, right, where you're giving them suggestions or talking to them or using a metaphor, you can drop in their personal trance words and it sits real easily with them. It passes any kind of resistance because these are the words that resonate with them to begin with. Mm-hmm. One little trick that we'll talk about is asking someone what is in a job. What is it? What has to be in the job? I'll ask you, Michael, what has to be in a job for you to really enjoy it? What has to be included in that job for you to really enjoy it?
It has to be creative.
Creative. Is there anything else?
Fun.
Fun and creative. So we could go on with that a little bit, but now we have two of Michael's personal trance words, fun and creative. And if we are giving him strategies to work with later, we can talk about, and just imagine how much fun it will be as you create this new strategy, or as you are very creative about the way that you find ways to move more.
Nice.
So, right? So now I was assuming you know what happens when you assume, but I was assuming that I moved that over to an exercise plan, right? If someone wants to move more, think of how much fun it'll be as you're creating brand new ways to move more.
I feel changed.
See how easy that is? See how well that works? You're going to learn those strategies and more ways to get personal trance words like that as well. Drawing out their metaphors, picking out, you know, it said that we speak 6 metaphors a minute. 6 a minute.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing. And I didn't believe it when I first learned that. So I really started listening carefully, and man, it is true. We really do. And when we listen for them, when we're really in the zone with our client and in that trance state, then we can really pay attention to what they're telling us and exactly what they want to do. There's also one other great thing that I do. I call it the outcome intervention. Yeah. It's a way of questioning clients. In NLP circles, it may be called the meta model, or there are all sorts of names for it, but a way to question the clients that come in. And the more you use it, the more conversational it becomes, and the easier it is to do. The more you question them and get their strategies, their words, all of that, you've got your script unfolding for you right there. You never need a script. You've got it right there unfolding in front of you.
Nice.
So those are the plans.
Great. Well, and there's a whole lot of interest, I think, these days, and more people are talking about it. I see people promoting. Steve Rame, folks that know him have possibly seen some posts that he's been putting on Facebook or advertisements about going scriptless. Scriptless seems to be the word of the season lately, and it sounds like that's exactly what we're doing. Is we're taking this information to create something in a fun way.
Right, to create as you go. As the client, I heard when I first got into hypnosis, I heard that the client will always tell you exactly what to say. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't, for the longest time, I couldn't figure it out, because I was spending so much time when they called to make the appointment and they wanted to stop biting their nails. I was spending so much time looking for the perfect nail biting script that why listen to them? I even studied with a trainer who said, don't ever listen to the clients. Don't listen to them. Let them talk for a couple of minutes and then get them right into hypnosis, because their conscious mind can't possibly know what they're talking about anyway. It's all coming from the subconscious mind. I don't happen to be a believer in that. It was their conscious mind that got them on the phone and called me and made the appointment. So I kind of keep their conscious mind involved. I mean, I understand that bypassing the critical faculty or factor, whichever what you want to call it. I get that, and I get bypassing that yeah but factor is what I call it. The yeah but this, yeah but that. I like to bypass that so it settles with them, but they will give us clues on how to do that. As long as I was looking for the perfect script and looking for the magic words. Yes, my book is called Magic Words and Language Patterns, but there aren't any real sentences that are magic. There are some words that work easier with the subconscious mind and easier with the brain than others.
Sure.
And that's what we're looking for. They'll give those to us.
So at the end of the day, they will be able to do what that they haven't been able to do before?
At the end of the day, they will be able to get the feedback they need from the client. They'll be able to stop worrying about being the answer person or the wizard. They will go in knowing that they don't have to do any pre-work on this particular client. When the client's going to come in their own state, you're going to find out what state that would be better for them, how they would be happier with that. And you will have several handouts and several tips, tricks, and techniques to take right back to the office so that you can do this with the very next client that comes in. I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong with scripts. There's some scripts that are lovely. There's some scripts in that big red book. Most of us have probably seen the big red book of hypnotic suggestions and metaphors. There's some ideas in there that I still use on occasion. I don't read the scripts, but I've used ideas from there. There are other metaphors and scripted things that I've used over and over and over again. They just come up. But, you know, it's like, you know, the boy who cried wolf, right? You know that story.
Sure.
Well, if that's pertinent to a client, I'm going to repeat that one to them too. So it's not like, but it's not something that I have to have in front of me and read it. It's something that we do and come up with as we go, which is really easy when we know how to listen for the right things. That's what how to
So,
listen for the right things.
so hypnosis really is, and it seems like you're affirming this. Hypnosis really is a conversation, after all. It is a communication. I don't know if you get the calls that I get, but I know around about supper time, the phone often rings, and there's somebody on the end that obviously doesn't know me because they pronounce my name wrong 3 times before they get it right, and they are reading something to me.
Yes.
And calling it a conversation, I'm just calling to let you know that you have won.
Right. Right.
That kind of thing. And I think that's one of the things that happens often if we're working strictly off of scripts. And yet, you can't forget what you know. People ask me sometimes if I do NLP when I'm doing hypnosis, or if I do NLP, or am I doing hypnosis or am I doing NLP? The truth of the matter is, when I'm doing hypnosis, I know what I know from NLP and from all the whole rest of the alphabet. And so obviously that comes along with me.
Of course.
But I don't have to prepare that in advance. That's already in there.
That's right. That's right. So in this class, what we'll learn in this day-long event is how to gather that stuff that you're talking about so that everyone can use what they know.
Nice.
I do believe that NLP is just wide awake hypnosis. I think NLP and hypnosis are the same, but then again, I've also said that I think everything is hypnosis. So, a suggestion from down the hall or a comment from the doctor to the wife can be a suggestion that gets implanted. We want to hear that.
Yeah.
So that we know what to do about it.
Yeah. My doctor said to me, "That's really some cough you've got there, Michael."
Yes, it is.
I said, "Yes, it's very good." He says, "That's a good cough you've got there." I said, "Yes, I've been practicing for weeks."
Oh, now I play another little game. When suggestions like that come my way, I wouldn't want that suggestion that's a good cough, because I want to let go of the cough. So I would grab that suggestion right out of thin air and toss it off.
Aikido.
Energetically taking the suggestion and keeping it from getting into me.
Nice.
I play that game sometimes with clients too. If they want to put their stuff on me, oh, you can't do this. And I tell them, wait a minute, that's not a suggestion that I want to take. And I'll grab it and throw it away. So it's also teaching them a way to stop the hypnosis coming in. Stop the stuff from coming in that they don't want.
Nice, nice. Well, the time is flying by, Karen. I'm just amazed how quickly. I was just looking at the clock, and I thought,
it does fly, doesn't it?
I do want to make sure that we mention this. So on Saturday, then at 2:00, you're doing a 1-hour program, and it's magic words and language patterns. Obviously, I've held up the book several times, but I'll do it again.
Same title as my book. That's right.
Same title as your book. Isn't it? What a weird coincidence. That's probably why they had you do this particular seminar.
That may be it. That may be it.
So can you just give us a little quick rundown on what people can expect from that?
Yes, we're going to get the top 20 words and language patterns that are easy on the mind, easy on the client, that really work well with the client. I'll give you a hint. My favorite word is the word because. And you may already know this, but the word because is a magic word because everything behind it is true. Everything that follows it is true. There's a great study that was done back in the 70s. It was not a hypnotist doing this study, but certainly someone in the psychology field. And she was studying human behavior. And I believe this was at Harvard, and in their library, they had one copy machine. And so the students would line up at various times to make copies of various things. And she sent her interns out to do a research study on this. First, they went up toward the front of the line and asked if they could cut in line. May I cut in line? Well, about 64% of the people said, sure, you can cut in line for no good reason at all. Just, yeah, go ahead. That was a pretty nice group of people. The second group went out and asked, may I cut in line because I'm running late? And 95% of the people let them in because they had a reason. They used the word because. The third group went out And their charge was to say, may I cut in line because I need to make copies.
Yeah.
As did everybody else in line. 94% of the people let them cut in. And it was because they used the because word. Everything after it is true, and so it just kind of slips on by.
Because.
That's right, because of the wonderful things she does.
That's
It's
exactly
one of those lasting suggestions.
Yeah.
Yes, and so that because word can be used very creatively in your session. Because you have had this experience today, you will go on to make whatever change you want to make. It's a great word to use wide awake as you're talking to a client or in the session, either way. We'll talk about many more magic words that you can use and some language patterns that are fun to use or techniques that are fun to use. The more pattern is one of my favorite. The more you listen to me talk about my workshop and my seminar, the more you want to sign up for each. The more you listen, the more you want it. That's right. the more pattern. Right. And you can tell that to your clients in a variety of ways with the things that they want to use as well. So there'll be tips, tricks, and techniques in that 1 hour as well for making suggestions and for any use of persuasive communication.
Okay, great. Well, listen, we've got just a couple minutes left, and I think what would be a nice thing to do right now is if anybody has a question, we really only do have a couple minutes, so we'll need to be quick about it. But you could either down in the chat box, if you want to open up the chat box, just say, I have a question. Or if you feel especially bold, you could unmute your microphone and say, I have a question. That'd be all right. But if you'd like to ask Karen something while we have her undivided attention, this would be a perfect opportunity to do that. I'm always amazed because I think what they've done, Karen, is they have stopped. They are listening.
Well, that's a good thing.
I just want to make sure if anyone has something for you that they have a chance to ask it because we have there you go. Best opportunity for them to get their question answered.
And of course, we use all of these magic words in everyday conversation. This is another little aspect of the 1 hour is that you may walk away from there with some things that you can use on your spouse or your kids or your boss or your coworkers. Doesn't have to be used in a hypnosis setting. There'll be a lot of fun things that go around there.
Nice. All right. Well, with that then, Karen, and seeing no questions, I think it's going to be time for us to make the transition here. So we're gonna save your accolades until the end because I know you're going to be around. I'm hoping not only you will continue to be around, but that you will scoot over into the well, not into the driver's seat necessarily, but make sure you're in the front seat of the car. Because I would love you to join me as we introduce Kweethai Neill here in just a couple of minutes.
I'm looking forward to it.
And before we do that, I just want to let everybody know that once again, this program is being recorded. The recording will be on the IACT IMDHA forum tomorrow by noon, and you also can get it on the IACT or IMDHA websites under the tab at the top that says conferences. If you just click there, there'll be a little drop-down menu, and you will see teleconferences underneath there. And all of the teleconferences that we've done so far are available for you to see or listen to. Again, for those of you who are calling in on the phone, when you go to the IACT groups and get this stuff, you'll actually be able to see us as well. And that lovely Chicago skyline that Karen has behind her. And with all respect to Chicago, because you know it's the city that I love, but you'll also get to see this beautiful Daytona Beach that is in back of me. Because I am just sitting right out here on the deck where I will be enjoying a margarita or a glass of wine or something with whoever chooses to join me on Thursday evening when I arrive at the conference on May 17th. That will be the day before the weekend. So please show up. And by the way, Karen, your one day is on Friday, so it's on the 18th of May.
Yes.
And it'll be all day that day, and it'll be a lovely day indeed. So make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that you are there for this wonderful time with Karen Hand. I want to point out that some of these programs are the days before and the days after that 18th, 19th, and 20th weekend. So you want to bear that in mind when you're making your airline reservations, your hotel reservations, whenever it is. In a moment, we're going to be talking with Kweethai Neill, for example, and her program is Monday and Tuesday, is it not?
Monday and Tuesday, that's right.
So following the weekend, so you don't want to leave on the 20th. You want to be able to stick around so that you can spend a couple of days with Kweethai Neill, learning the wonderful things that she has to share with us. So officially, this brings the first segment of our program for the evening to a close. So again, thank you so much, Karen. We really appreciate you sharing your stuff with us, and you've done such a lovely job. And as I have already told everybody, except maybe those who have arrived late, I am still here suffering with the plague. I have had my microphone turned off during just about half of this. I thought I would stop, look, try to listen, and cough at the same time. So I'm really appreciative of any help and support that you can give me in terms of questions and chatting with our next guest, who is in fact Dr. Kweethai Neill. I am about to unmute her microphone, so we just want to run a little test here because I know that she has joined us. I saw her there a minute ago. Interesting. Kweethai, you are logged. Oh, there you are. I see it. And Kweethai, you say hello.
And your mic is open.
Okay. Hello,
Open.
Karen.
So I just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure that we could hear you. So hello and welcome. We need to introduce you. This is a lady that I have known. And by the way, I got to tell you something. We started out the last segment just like this with when I was talking to Karen. And look, for those of you who are online here, I held up Karen's book, and here I have a book called How to Build a Secure Hypnotherapy Practice.
You've got a great library.
Dr. Kweethai Neill, PhD. So also I have two authors on the program tonight. I have a feeling that you've done a little bit more writing than that. So we'll talk about that as we go on. But right back behind me in the picture, for those of you who can see me, this is that deck at Daytona Beach, and it is just on the other side of that swimming pool over there. I think an evening where maybe we were making s'mores or something.
Yes.
I believe I had the first conversation that I had with Dr. Neill, and it was such a lovely meeting, and I will always remember that. So it's just great to have you on here for the. This is probably the third time now, or the fourth time, I guess, maybe, that I have interviewed you before a conference like this. And I'm just going to read some official stuff in terms of letting you know. Of course, the official words are nothing compared to the spirit and the heart of this woman. But Kweethai has been in full-time practice in clinical hypnotherapy for more than 14 years. She's worked successfully with many traumatized clients. She has specialized training with the International Association of Trauma Professionals. Kweethai integrates her skills in hypnotherapy, mindfulness training, and energy medicine to achieve amazing results with clients. She's an exceptional teacher, hypnotherapist, and negotiator, besides being an author, mentor, and advisor. And she's going to be doing a 2-day course, Hypnotherapy for Trauma, on Monday and Tuesday, May 21st and 22nd, right after the weekend. So, Dr. Kweethai, welcome.
Well, thank you, Michael. And first of all, I want to thank you for the wonderful work you've been doing with these interviews. And you are such a natural, and you make the interviews, you make me sound so much better. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
And hello, Karen. And I look forward to meeting you in person. And we'll be doing other things together in May as well before this conference.
That's right. That's right.
All right. By the way, Dr. Neill, and I don't want you to work too hard at this because we can certainly see you and talk with you, but you're a little bit blurry.
I don't know why.
Well, I hope you haven't been drinking or anything.
Well, I have been drinking tea.
No, and you know what? And now you're just great. Now you've come forward just a little bit, and you're just great. So I think it's a question of
it must be the distance from the camera. Is it good now?
You're lovely right now. That's great.
Let's see if I can see me. Okay, I can see me now.
Okay.
I should tell you that Michael is the one who has been drinking, so maybe you were.
Well, you know, we do not drink alcohol, so it couldn't be me.
Well, see, then there's this. Well, maybe that's the problem right there.
Well, I think,
So Kweethai,
Yes, go ahead.
Mama, it's interesting because I sort of made an assumption that you were going to be teaching something about your six-figure practice, and I've heard you talk about business and NLP, and gosh, you're going to be in New York with HypnoBiz and the keynote speaker for that.
Yes.
So this is something a little different from what I'm used to talking with you about.
Have you ever heard of the Buddha with 1,000 hands?
I
Yeah.
have.
Well, I only have two, but I have fingers that in many different things. And yes, I actually launched the red book that you hold up, if you wouldn't mind. This book was launched at the IMDHA conference, and I have taught full-day workshop with that. I will be doing a lot more of that as I'm keynoting the conference in New York, in the HypnoBiz New York. So if you're interested in that, go to that section. Now, this coming year at the HypnoExpo, I'm doing 3 different sessions. I'm doing a session a little bit about the business piece. I believe I have a 1-hour session on the magic formula to price your services.
Yes.
So it's a very important part of our practice. Many people say, oh, how much should I charge for this? How do I sell my services and all that? And so I have a 1-hour, I believe this is a 1-hour lecture.
Right.
On
1 hour at 3 o'clock on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it, Kweethai.
Thank you. So there's a chance in 45 minutes we take a deep breath and we're going to figure out exactly how to price your services, and people will be running to you and walking away feeling that you have given them a lot more than they paid you for. That's my rule. People must walk away feeling that they got more value than the money they parted with.
Nice.
So that's going to be the 45-minute lecture. And the other half of the work, this year, I want to focus on working with trauma. And I have, I believe, a 2-hour, is that a 2-hour workshop? It's part of the conference. I don't know exactly the schedule.
You mean aside from your 2-day trauma program?
Yes. I believe.
Give me a moment. And, I'm sorry, you caught me unaware. I've got the magic formula, and I will find it here, unless Karen beats me to the punch.
No, I'm seeing only the magic formula.
Okay.
And the 2-day workshop.
Okay, so instead of my 2 hour, they wanted me to do the full days, 2 days.
Yeah.
So it's actually then the post-conference workshop. You're going to spend 2 complete days. This is a very intense. People who have been to my trainings at my studio here will know that I'm a very intense instructor. So 2 days, take your breath, don't even exhale until we're done.
And it's a certificate course, I see. So they will get a certificate upon completing it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And in the last few years, Karen, you know how it is. It's not what you look for to do, it finds you.
Yes.
So there was a period in my practice where I found that I suddenly have a slew of people with similar traumatic experiences. And then I realized that, people have all these buzzwords about brain plasticity and trauma and PTSD and all that. And that's all very well and fine. I've worked with people from the military, but trauma also happens at home.
Yeah.
Yes. And I had the experience of working with a student who wanted me to supervise her, and she volunteered at a battered women's shelter. And she just asked me to come and supervise her because she has ulterior motives. So knowing me, I met all these ladies who suffered such horrible things in their lives. And now I'm sitting in a room with about 20 women. And she knew I just couldn't sit still and do nothing.
Sure.
So I started doing some work with them. And very soon I am doing some sessions with them all just to help them. And I realized that the notion of trauma runs far deeper and wider than meets the eye. So then I got into more study, and I went and trained with a specialist group of people to learn more about the neuroscience of trauma. And, you know, although I tell people I'm a recovered scientist, one is never entirely recovered. So my interest in science went back to learn more about the neuroscience of traumatic experiences, what it does to a person physically and physiologically, and then how that translates to our behavior response to our day-to-day life. And then realize the bad news is trauma actually does something to our brains. And the good news is, you know, we are a wonderful piece of machinery that our brains know how to heal itself if we give it half a chance. As long as we're breathing, we can do something about it. I come from a field of health science and health education. I used to tell my students, the only competitors we have are the morticians.
Yeah.
If you're living and you're breathing and you want to be helped, we can do something about it. And I think how wonderful it is we have this tool of working directly with the subconscious mind and giving our poor little brains a chance to rectify itself and come back to a sense of normalcy. So in the 2 days, I will do my best to translate complex neuroscience into very simple language. We don't have to become neuroscientists to be able to help our clients. We just need to understand the basis of how it works and then go straight to work and talk about how step by step we can help trauma victims reclaim their lives by rewiring their brains. And so those will be the 2 days. I will also go into teaching the participants how to do in-depth mindfulness meditations. That as hypnotherapists, our first step is to heal ourselves. I think we all come broken in different places somehow, and we are constantly reinventing ourselves.
Yes. Yes. Great.
So I'm curious, are you using and teaching in this workshop, are you teaching hypnosis work, neuroscience work, NLP work, meditation, all of the above?
And ancient Chinese energy work to help realign your internal energies and get all the blockages in your meridians out of the way.
Very interesting stuff for people who've studied hypnosis only, as an example. Maybe something that they've never been exposed to before.
Yeah.
Well, this is an opportunity to bring all your patches, and we're going to make the most wonderful quilt.
Yes.
So just curiously, can you just say a little more about that? That is, how do you integrate Chinese energy medicine with hypnotherapy?
Well, very interesting. I've been studying with Qigong masters for many, many years. In fact, this is my 6th teacher now. I just came back from a long retreat. Now, to put it in Western terms, the bandwidth of brain activity that we work with in energy work is in your alpha range. We're doing work in the same space and time. So it is a very natural transition, because when you go do meditation and you go inside yourself, for example, I say, all right, now take a deep breath, close your eyes, and I'll say, turn your eyeballs around. Look inside. And we are immediately in your hypnotic space, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes. And so we may come together and integrate terms of East and West. After all, we all stick our tongues out like so. They all look the same color, doesn't it? I mean, we may look outside differently, but inside, our internal energy systems are the same. And so, and also in the 2 days, it's a lot easier to show you how it works than to tell you how it works. So I will do both in the training. First, I'll talk you through how it works, and then I'll show you how it works. Then I'll let you do the work, and I make sure you do it right.
So there'll be lecture, there'll be demonstration, and there'll be practice. Everyone
Yes.
gets to try it out.
Yes, I want to make sure before I give you a piece of paper to say you're certified specialist in the area, you actually not only, you know, we are professionals because we have a language that is specific to us, right? We speak hypnotherapy language, and we do hypnotherapy work, and we should be able to talk it, do it, show it, and hopefully in the near future teach it.
Yes. Yes.
That's the kind of teacher I am. I want to make sure that it's not just all talk. You know, back in the days, you color a bubble in a multiple choice test, and you may even get 100%. You walk away and you know nothing.
Right.
Right. Kweethai, let me ask you, if you don't mind, to define trauma in the way that you're using it.
Trauma is something out of the ordinary that happens to you that take you out of your normal behavior space. It's something that is trauma is when your body, your person experience something horrible, something that is out of the ordinary bad experience that you encounter, and it just sort of completely shake you up. It's sort of like, you know, if you were an egg and I hold you this way and I shake you up, if you were the egg, you'll be traumatized.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
you can certainly understand what those kids at the Parkland School in Florida went through. That was a trauma. But I'm
Yes.
guessing that for other people, there can be very individualized traumas too, that are very out of the ordinary for their life. It can run
Yes.
a big range of things.
Yes, and as hypnotherapists, we know that a lot of these fears, I call them fears, happened to us when we were children. And a fear is a fear. No matter how old you are, you respond to the fear the same way, whether you're 55 or 5 years old. And so the magic piece of the work that we do is to be able to go back and do a virtual time travel and help the client resolve that issue. I tell my clients, I don't do it for you. I'm a teacher. I'm going to take you back in time, and I will teach you how to help yourself, because my job is to get you out of my office and not see you again. And if I do, you just have to give me a hug and buy me a cup of tea. See, I'm a cheap date.
That's lovely. Kweethai, Milton Erickson, there's a famous quotation from Erickson that I remember. And one of the things that he said was, all of our clients have the same problem. And the problem is that they are in therapy. And the solution is to get them out of therapy as quickly as possible.
Right.
This is the basis of short-term therapy, and what Erickson became the proponent of.
And that's why I am so excited to be in this field. Back 14 years ago, when I walked off the academic mountain and hypnotherapy found me, and I said, all right, I am still a health educator, only that I have a more effective tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I can help people be a little bit happier and a little bit healthier and feel a little better about themselves at the end of a session. That's my goal.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not only a more effective tool, but I think you have a better audience.
Yes.
And so are you a proponent of a certain number of sessions, Kweethai? Do you talk about that? Or yours, I'm guessing, are not one-offs, but...
Oh, number one, I very rarely do single session, because I say even God takes 7 days. But in that, if the single session is all I have, I said my best shot is to make you feel a little better at the end than in the beginning. And how much better depends on you. But I can assure you, if you are willing, it's not a matter of your ability to be hypnotized. It's about your willingness, your volition, your wanting to be hypnotized, your desire to feel better. If we have those elements, then I know that you will feel better. I said 14 years of full-time practice. No one, not a single one, has ever left my office without a positive change. The magnitude of that change varies from person to person. So when we talk about, people answer the phone and they say, oh, well, how many sessions, how much does it cost? Now we will explore more about that when we talk about pricing your sessions. Recently, I participated in a virtual conference where my session was about the crucial pre-talk. In that very first conversation with your client, you have to establish complete trust from the client in your work. And when that happens, they will never need to ask you how many sessions. As many as you desire. I tell them as many as you need.
Nice. By the way, you brought up the subject of, again, of pricing your sessions. One of our participants has posted a question here about what do these extra classes cost? So first of all, I would refer everybody to the IACT IMDHA catalog if you've got it. If you are a member, you should have received this in the mail by now. Hour of You, HypnoExpo, and it goes into all of that in detail. And of course, you can find the information on the website. But here's the thing that I want to say about this particularly is we're talking about giving people a skill that they'll be able to use and take into their practice, and put to work right away. Is that correct?
Right.
So I wonder how many clients it takes, whether it's one client or two clients, and of course this depends on what they're charging. But to actually to be able to recoup the money that people spend on education here at the HypnoExpo, where these incredible courses are being offered for such small amounts of money relatively. For example, the work that Karen was talking about tonight, something that her people will be able to use immediately. A one-day workshop is $175, and that's one day. The full day individual workshops, the two-day programs like the one that Dr. Neill is doing are $275. Again, depending on what your rate is, this is one or two clients is going to recoup your investment in this training that you'll be able to take with you for the rest of your life and add to your career. So,
well, I usually, and I will be doing it again this year, Friday morning at the breakfast, I've been given the opportunity to keynote that, and I talk to people who may be newcomers to a conference. I say, if you're a new practitioner, coming to a professional conference is the best bang for your buck. You're going to meet fellow practitioners whom you will form a network of support with. You will be able to meet the leaders in the field who will teach you something for a very, very, very small fee. And then if you choose to participate in the longer workshops, you will really be able to take home with you some in-depth training with something you can actually work with. I mean, it's great, and we are in the company of many wonderful speakers who can in 1 hour, or actually 45 minutes, dazzle you, and you might be able to walk away with one gem. Mm-hmm. Now, if you can do that, and you spend a full day or a half a day or 2 days and learn something you can actually use. Now, to answer the question about the price, I consider going to a conference and sharing my knowledge and skills as a form of community service. As I'm sure Karen and Michael will agree that we charge a lot more when we are teaching in our own facility.
Yes.
Yes, and I know this 2 days for $275, it doesn't even pay for 1 hour of time with me. So I teach a workshop in the fall in my facility where I have students who fly in from different parts of the world, and they spend 6 days with me for the first course, and then they take a break and they spend another 4 days with me, and I charge many, many times more than what they charge for 2 days in the conference. You can look it up in the website.
Yeah.
But what I am saying to people who are concerned about the cost, I'm going to suggest to you, look in the mirror, take a deep breath and say, I am worth it. Spend the money.
Yeah. Well, and again, it really is an incredibly low cost. By the way, Kweethai, you said community service. I want to point out you're doing your 45-minute program on how to price your services. You're doing a 2-day program on working with trauma. You're doing the Friday breakfast and helping people get oriented so that they can make the best use out of the conference. And on Saturday morning, you're doing Qigong on the beach.
Yes, actually, I'm going to tell Linda, I want to do the class inside because it's difficult to instruct on the beach with the sound of the waves. And I really would like to extend a warm invitation to everyone at the conference. If you would get your bodies up early in the morning and join me in whatever room I hope to get, I will teach you a couple very basic skills that will change your life. I know how many people out there who hate the notion of exercise, right? Everybody, workout, what's the key word in the word workout is work. Why do you want to work all day and come home and go work again? It's insane, right? So I will teach you some very simple Qigong exercises and breathing techniques that Chinese people have been doing this for 5,000 years. And it will be better than the apple a day. It will keep your doctor away if you practice just 5 to 10 minutes every day.
Excellent.
Nice.
Where will that be, Kweethai? Where will that be?
I think that's on Saturday morning.
Saturday.
Early morning is probably the hour before the conference begins.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. 8 to
Okay,
9.
wonderful.
Now, there it is. Yeah, 8 o'clock.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that Linda will give me a room rather than doing it on the beach. It will be wonderful. It'll be my goal. In a few years' time, we will do it on the beach because I won't need to instruct anymore. Then you just do it.
Nice.
Great.
So we have to first learn the moves, and it's a lot easier for me to teach in a classroom than to teach on the beach.
Okay.
And
Well,
it's free, you know. Like I say, it's community service because those of us who come to conference as presenters, you know, the money that we may get from our workshops far, far less than the expenses we put out to go there, right?
yes, indeed.
Right. And so I come for the joy of being with people, of meeting wonderful people. You see, now I have a new friend, Karen. After tonight, we are friends because I've never chatted with you before. I know Michael and I talked for hours at the fire pit. And, you know, we became so siblings from that moment, if I may say so, Michael.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
So I know that you two are really bonding here, but I want to go back to one more thing about your workshop, your 2-day
Yes.
workshop.
Well, why not?
about the various kinds of trauma. I mentioned, you know, the kids at the Parkland School, that was a traumatic event, and you mentioned some other things, but there's, give me an idea of what we're talking about here with how many kinds of trauma.
First, of course, I will address military trauma. I've worked with people who suffered from trauma from the act of war and being out in the war zone. I've worked with people whom I call traumatized people who have PTSD as a result of the domestic war zone, battered wives. And then also domestically, I've worked with many clients who suffered the act of incest. And that's one of the most horrendous things one has to work with when you're a child and the person who's supposed to love and protect you assaults you sexually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then to deal with a whole lifetime of negative behaviors and self-betraying behaviors that cause further suffering. And then, of course, there are children who are being bullied at school. That's traumatic. They are currently working with children who are caught in a battle of domestic dispute, parents getting divorced. I just answered a call yesterday, an 11-year-old child suffering from panic attacks and OCD. And it began the moment the parents separated.
Yeah.
And then in such cases, Just giving sessions to the child alone is not going to do it. So when that happens, I require to see the whole family. I won't take the case.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I do the same thing. And some people say, wait a minute, they only called about the child. Yeah, but I don't want to send them back home to hear it started.
And then I'll give a little bit. And in the pricing, and I have to have them commit to a whole package. I say I bill against a retainer.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to let me see the child one time and then you disappear and the child has no more help. They have to be committed, or it's a waste of their time, my time, and their money.
Right. So in this, oops, I'm sorry, I've just muted myself. I felt a cough coming on. I keep pushing the button. I got to remember which one is on and which one is not. So I hear here we're talking about war-related trauma. We're talking about incest. We're talking about bullying. We're talking about domestic disputes and just growing up in a household like that, or parents separating, these kind of things. If I'm hearing you right, in the course of your 2-day workshop, people are going to get tools to deal with all of these issues?
Yes.
That is amazing. That is
and fears too,
amazing.
you said, yeah.
Yes, and it's not rocket science, it's energy science, however. And you get to what I would teach you is to get to the underscoring energy that underscores all trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing the energy work is something different from tapping or anything else. Is that true?
Tapping is a kind of energy work. EMDR, as you know, EMDR is a very mild form of hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But they get to bill insurance and we don't. But yes, I deal with the internal energies that fuel your emotions. You see, the word emotion, if we split it up, is energy in motion. So I work on the core issue of how you feel, the client, and how you want to feel afterwards. So it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you, the client, is traumatized by whatever it is, we can work on that. And part of this intense workshop is to teach you how to flush out through an intuitive interview what the real issue is. As you know, your book on magic words, I'm teaching a 6-day course I call the language of change, and it's a whole different way of speaking. Now, the work I do is not NLP. It came from my work as a health educator. I used to teach a communication skills course at university for health educators. And drawing from that background, I'm coming with certain linguistic skills, certain language, certain words that we speak to express a sense of clarity, simplicity, specificity, directness, and being positive. You know, my students will put up their fingers when I say that these are the five fingers they have to look at in the way we speak and express ourselves very clearly. And if our intentions match our words, we know our lives will be a lot better in many ways.
Nice.
Absolutely. I'm guessing, Kweethai, that when the client calls to make an appointment, they are defining trauma. They
Yes.
are saying, I've experienced this,
Yes.
rather than you're defining their trauma.
Right. It's not my pattern, it's your pattern. It's not my picture, it's your picture. Right? I may know the tune, but you are the singer.
Well, I think this is great because it seems to me that almost everybody in America today has experienced some kind of trauma.
Everybody in the world has experienced some kind of trauma.
No, I didn't turn on the television today.
Yes, but you went to the eye doctor and he dilated your eyes. That was pretty good.
That is exactly right. So, by the way, I just want to point out to the people that are watching and listening, we've got a little bit of time left. We're not in too much of a rush just yet. But this is quite a topic in terms of trauma, and it's the sort of thing that my experience tells me invites questions. So I just want to make sure that there's enough time that if anybody who's listening or watching has a question for Dr. Kweethai, we want to be sure that you get a chance to get it in. And the best way to do that would be to open up the chat room if you haven't done that already. It's just down underneath my chin, probably on your screen. If you're seeing me now, there's a little button that says chat. And if you click on that, it'll open up a chat room on the side of the screen. Don't write your question in the chat room. Just write, I have a question, so that we can identify you and we know that you have a question, and then I'll be able to open the microphone for you and introduce you, and you can ask your question of Dr. Neill. And in the meantime, of course, we're going to keep chatting with each other because we've got a lot to say and a lot to stop and listen to. So
I saw a question in the chat. Is that a question someone asked?
Oh,
Are
there
there
is.
prerequisites for the class?
That's right. Are there
Is that
prerequisites?
for me?
Are there prerequisites for either class? That is for you.
Yes. First, you have to have an open mind, and then you have to have a willing heart. Those are the prerequisites.
Is breathing required?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So 3 things.
Reading,
Yes.
open heart, open mind. Got it.
Open heart,
Yeah.
open mind.
You got to have lungs that work, and a willing heart and an open mind. And I take it that everyone attending the conference are already hypnotherapists. So in this class, I will not be addressing basic hypnosis skills. And if you can't follow because you're not a hypnotherapist, I believe you will also take with you a lot of knowledge. I think one of the things that moved me into offering this class is I have recently been moved to do this work, and I've attended many different sessions, both from the scientific community and from the therapeutic community and from hypnotherapists. One day I attended a lecture, and there was a statistic put up that really moved my heart. The number of deaths from our veterans taking their own lives have exceeded the number of our soldiers dying in the battlefield.
Wow.
Wow.
And predominantly, our veterans come home with very little effective recourse to help them recalibrate their lives.
Yes.
When you go out there and you see heinous things done that are unnatural, to kill someone is unnatural. To see body parts blown up everywhere is unnatural. And to see children carrying guns shooting at people, that's unnatural. So when a person goes out in the battlefield, their whole world has been twisted inside out and upside down. And when they come home, last year I worked with a veteran, and I asked him, what did the military do for you when you came home? And it was very interesting. They were immediately put in a place where they debriefed him. He was on special forces. And they debriefed him for 2 days. It has nothing to do with how do you feel, Michael.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with extracting relevant information. And after that, he went, I think they might have sent him to see a counselor for an hour or 2, and then it was done.
Yeah.
His whole life fell apart.
Sure.
Yeah, and it really touched my heart. He is a really nice looking young man, strong and everything. And his family life fell apart. But I was very happy to see that in the process of work with me and through his own desire to heal, he got his life back.
Well, something I think that really is an issue with American soldiers these days, and you can tell me if I'm right about this, but in the last in the last 40 years since Vietnam, I suspect most of the wars that we'd been involved in as a nation before that had a conclusion, and at the conclusion of the war, the soldiers all came back, and there were ticker tape parades and a welcoming and a kind of receiving back into the society, where now soldiers kind of come trickling back a little bit at a time, and it's like, oh, now you're home.
Right, and because you physically look okay, they expect you to jump right back into life and pick up where you left off. But things have changed. And there's got to be, and I would love to see, it is also my goal to do a lot of this training with licensed mental health professionals and physicians, because it is necessary. There is a real need, because a lot of times if we have a broken leg and we hobble down the street with crutches, people will say, oh, so sorry to see you suffer. But mental suffering is insidious, is invisible, and we don't know until something horrible happens. And so it destroys, trauma not only destroys the life of the individual who suffered the direct trauma, the secondary suffering through families and children is countless. There are just so many out there that we not even know of. And now very young children are exhibiting symptoms of trauma, may not be from guns, but maybe from watching TV and things blowing up a lot. And we desensitize ourselves. And so there are so many different aspects. It's like painting a landscape. You know, when I get started, it's like, okay, there's the beach behind you. We look for beyond that, there's the mountains behind you and the trees. And then it is layers upon layers upon layers of suffering. I just hope, you know, I tell people I work one client at a time. I just hope that the day I die is that any person I have encountered, I had helped to make your life just a wee bit better because we interacted.
Yes, yes. What a lovely thing to say, and a great note for us to start to wrap this up. You know, we're just about at the end of our time together. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Kweethai, and
thank you, Michael. Thank you, Karen.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
So don't go away, because we've got to give you the proper send off. But
okay.
Before we do that, I just need to make a couple of last announcements, and to remind you, Dr. Kweethai's program is Monday and Tuesday following the weekend. So that would be the 21st and the 22nd of May. Beautiful Daytona Beach. This lovely scene behind me is just exactly what you'll be able to see when you're there. So do be there. Make sure that you get yourself out to the IACT and IMDHA websites and register for the conference if you haven't done already, and tick the box that says that you want to attend Dr. Kweethai's 2-day trauma program, that you want to attend Karen's Friday program as well, and that you want to attend mine on Thursday. So we'll give you a whole lot of things to do over the course.
And one more thing, if you register early enough that I can print out your pretty certificates from my printer, you will get your certificate at the end of the training. Otherwise, you will have to wait for me to mail it to you, because I want it out of my printer with my seal and my signature and all that stuff. And I hope that the piece of paper that you get at the end of the 2 days is not that it guarantees you that you can do all the work. It's a sign of commencement of real work because you have trained with me.
Right.
Time to begin the real work, and so after the weekend, you'll be able to take these training skills into your practice from all of these programs and all the wonderful things that are going to happen over the course of the IACT IMDHA HypnoExpo 2018. So looking forward to it. You guys up north that are just so cold, Kweethai and I have a slightly different experience at the moment, thank goodness. I hope it's warm where you are, Kweethai. It's a little cold.
It is a little bit warmer today, but I've been in Portland, Oregon for the whole week looking at the Pacific Ocean. So
I'm back in Seattle, and it was cold in Seattle.
It was cold, and there was the beach, and we couldn't stick our feet in it.
Right. One quick thing, Michael, before we end, is how we get in touch with Dr. Kweethai, and I'll give my get in touch with information as well.
Oh, good. So how can people get in touch with you, Dr. Neill?
You can simply Google my name, or you can go to iHealthTherapies.com. That's our main site, iHealthTherapies.com, and it will lead you to all my other websites, and you can see. Also, there are many YouTube videos I put out there. It's free if you want to learn something from me. All kinds of things available, and also in our iHealth Hypnotherapy School.com site. There will be many different things you can see. This year has been a very busy year for me to speak. You'll be able to see where I will be speaking in many different conferences and sharing different things all over the country.
Great. And Karen, thanks for reminding me. How do we get in touch with you?
Very simply, KarenHand.com or Karen at KarenHand.com, and it's hand like the right hand.
Not like your left hand. That would be different.
No, I am the right hand.
Okay, the right hand. So,
talk to the hand. If you need, help, talk to the hand.
And you certainly
you can write your name, Karen, on your hand and just put it up there. This is where you find me.
You might be able to see my bracelet. It has a hand.
Oh, how nice.
A hand on it or not.
Oh, nice.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do what we always do at the end of the program. Don't forget, look for the recording tomorrow. Oh, I didn't say it either time. I mentioned where it's posted on the IACT IMDHA website and where it's in the forum. But it's also posted on the Virtual Chapter, which is a group on Facebook. So you can join Virtual Chapter on Facebook, and all of the replays are posted there, as well as the Virtual Chapter meetings themselves that we hold once a month are posted there on replay as well. So join Virtual Chapter.
Now, the pre-post conferences are not video streamed.
No. I mean this program here, but you're right. The pre and post conferences are not video streamed, but these programs that we've done here online are available tomorrow for people to see again. So go out and give them a look. And what we're going to do now is we are going to unmute everybody, Dr. Neill, so that they can say goodbye to you and to Karen, and thank you for being with us tonight. So in the great cacophony that follows, listen for your name and listen for all of the love that comes along with it. And thank you for being our guests tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Michael, very much.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kweethai.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Melissa Tears.
Thank you.
Melissa Tears and Peter Bloom next week.